Welcome to the 2021 Annual Interfaith Alliance event and awards ceremony. We are excited that you're with us. 2021 has been an interesting, challenging, and rewarding year. We have had moments of joy together as we've made progress in our desire to be back in full health and with each other in the community. We have also seen difficulties, families facing health issues, an inability to be together in person, and ongoing challenges in our state regarding love and support and understanding for people across our differences. The Interfaith Alliance stands for faith and freedom. We support each other. We try to get to know each other across religious differences, and we welcome and celebrate people of all faiths and people of no faith. Tonight, we are excited to share with you both spoken word and artistry from different members of 3 communities, all of whom are integral to the fabric of Oklahoma, and all of whom need understanding and support so that we can work together for a better tomorrow. I am excited to welcome Reverend Aaron Bolerjack, our Vice President, as the Master of Ceremonies for the evening, and I will let him walk you through the rest of the events for tonight, and I will see you at the end. Have an enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aaron Bolerjack. I'm the Vice President for the Interfaith Alliance Foundation of Oklahoma. We're so glad that you're with us tonight. The theme of tonight's event is Everyone Belongs. And at the Interfaith Alliance, we genuinely believe that's true, but also recognize that historically, the state of Oklahoma, the city of Oklahoma City, and even the United States has not always done a great job of embodying that truth. And so we've invited members of 3 different Oklahoma communities of color: the Native and Indigenous community, the Black and African American community, and the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, communities that have been historically underrepresented and disenfranchised in Oklahoma, to share with us from their art, their culture, and their beliefs. At the Interfaith Alliance, we believe that's what it means for everyone to belong. Regardless of their faith tradition or no faith tradition, everyone belongs. Representing the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities are Ray Wong Bowen, a Taiwanese transplant to Oklahoma City, known for her upright jazz bass playing skills. Also, Miss Cindy Nguyen, since 2018, the YWCA of Oklahoma City's Director of Social and Economic Justice.
Thank you all for joining me virtually to celebrate the amazing and incredible work done by the Interfaith Alliance of Oklahoma, as well as the Asian Task Force of Oklahoma and the incredible speakers that came before me. Dr. Noel Jacobs invited me. My name is Cindy Nguyen. I am currently the Director of Social and Economic Justice at the YWCA in Oklahoma City, which is where we are currently filming, and I am also the founder of the Asian Task Force of Oklahoma. We created the task force on the question of how do we keep our community members safe. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw the horrific headlines during the Atlanta spa shootings. We also saw a spike in intimate partner violence, and we also saw a spike and our elders being attacked in broad daylight. So we created this task force to answer the question of how do we keep one another safe. And at the YWCA in Oklahoma City, as well as the Asian Task Force in Oklahoma, we firmly believe that we all have a role to play in creating safer communities for our neighbors, our loved ones, and our community members. We also firmly believe that violence only rises to a level that the community is willing to allow, especially when we use things like dehumanizing language that is stigmatizing, and language that is also othering. Because a lot of times, whenever we use this type of language, we are literally training our brains out of compassion. Because it is a lot easier to dehumanize and commit crimes of hatred against another person when we dehumanize them and do not see them fully as another human being. This is what leads to a lack of empathy and a crisis of empathy within the United States. Many of us at the task force have been raised to be silent and to keep our head down on matters that matter to us. It is what our parents have raised us to believe. It is how we have survived in the United States. However, the task force was created because we want to be able to speak on issues that not only affect us, but our Black and brown siblings and community members. We also want to talk about the Afghan refugees that are coming over to the United States who have faced a similar plight as well. To survive in this country for many of our parents and our caregivers means to keep our head down and not to question the status quo. However, we know that if you walked into any Vietnamese nail salon today, we know that the most common English word spoken in the nail salon is sorry. In Ocean Vuong's book, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, he says that the most common English word spoken is sorry, and that means to lower yourself to appease another person. However, we created the task force simply to talk about how we are no longer lowering our heads and how we are no longer accepting the status quo for what it is. We created the task force because we are no longer saying sorry for our existence, and we created the task force to speak up with and for our Black and brown siblings across the United States. I hope you all leave this evening with a sense of urgency in knowing that all of our freedoms are united and that there is no liberation or freedom without another group's freedom. From Frederick Douglass speaking out against the Chinese Exclusion Act to Coretta Scott King, Muhammad Ali, and Dr. King speaking out against the war in Vietnam. We know that our liberation is tied to one another and will always be interwoven. History is not inevitable, and history does not have to be repeated. Knowing that time and time again that history unfortunately repeats itself because people believe that oftentimes history can only be changed and that social change and movements can only be successful because of a few key leaders. But we know that history is changed because of ordinary people like you and me choosing to speak up and out against bigotry and hatred time and time again. So history is not inevitable. It does not have to repeat itself, and most importantly, history is a series of choices that we make every single day, just like Muhammad Ali, Dr. King, Coretta Scott King, and Grace Lee Boggs. So we are no longer being silent on the issues that matter, just like the Interfaith Alliance choosing to have these courageous conversations every single day, and the conversations that the YWCA in Oklahoma City, as well as the Asian Task Force of Oklahoma has created. We hope that you all leave this evening with a sense of urgency in knowing that our liberation will always be interwoven and tied together, and that freedom for one group means nothing without freedom for another group. Thank you.
Representing the Black and African American communities are Janice Francis Smith, a nationally recognized poet and songwriter from Oklahoma City, as well as Reverend T. Cherie Dickerson, a pastor, a poet, an activist, and a founder of Black Lives Matter Oklahoma and a founding member of the March for Women for Oklahoma.
Indigo sky, the wise men search the stars for the reasons why things are the way they are, searching for a sign on which to hang their hope. A child is born, fulfilling prophecy. The wise men know this baby's destiny. They pack up their camels with frankincense, myrrh, and gold, and they travel from afar, just chasing down a star. They follow a star. The night is long, feels like the world's gone dark, but the flame of love still burns in blessed hearts. May that divine light guide you along your path. You have a gift to offer to the world, and you are the child the prophecy foretold. You play a part in the great big cosmic dance. So remember who you are and lift your head up, child of God. Follow your star. Follow your Follow your star. Follow your star.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I'm not exactly sure what time we're going to be viewing, but I want to first extend my salutations to everyone within the purview of being in community. I am Reverend T. Cherie Amore Dickerson, and some know me as an activist or revolutionary, working as ED with the Black Lives Matter organization and over the Oklahoma City chapter here. I also am the state leader and a national board member for Women's March. I am one of the clerical ministers or associate ministers at East 6th Street Christian Church, but I just tell everybody I'm just simply Cherie. I certainly have been called worse. I think my favorite term of endearment is when I hear one of my beloveds call me mama. I'm talking today around the theme of everyone belongs. And what does that really mean in 2021 when many BIPOC people and people within underrepresented communities and marginalized persons are still experiencing firsts. We just had our first VEP as a woman of color, Kamala Harris. We just lost the first Secretary of State, Secretary General Colin Powell, who we're seeing an evolution of first, but I wonder if they should still be happening in 2021. And so I wonder, does everyone actually belong? Is that a dream deferred, or is it a goal that many of us are trying to achieve? I know, and I go off of the teachings of my Mima and my granny, and think about the things that they used to say, and they were very simple in their lessons, but so profound in the fact that I think if we listened more with intention and did these very simple steps like do good, be kind, understand what love is, and my Mima would always say, understand what it ain't, and stay away from the aspects that don't edify being a good human, we would all be in a very, very different place. I am appreciative of organizations that I've been able to participate in, one of those being the Interfaith Alliance. And I've always found it interesting that we needed to have an alliance of interfaith groups, but we needed that because most of us are coming from intrafaith groups, which we only establish community, and we only show humility and benevolence and generosity to those within our circles. And so we're having to literally evoke the emotion of humanity and looking after one another and loving on each other through affiliation and associations like that of the Interfaith Alliance, and the world of faith, however you define that, because I think there are as many aspects of faith as there are of gender. And so if we are still thinking that there are only two, we're doing it wrong. If we're thinking that one is better than the other, we are doing it wrong. And if we're not understanding why things like saying no human is illegal, and if I have a womb, I should be in control or have agency of what happens with that. Or if we're saying something that I relate to and I connect to because it's my experience, that Black Lives Matter, and not having someone counter that with all lives matter, it means that you're not even trying to understand why the necessity of organizations like those that I just mentioned have to exist. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it is about community, and sometimes it's about sensibility, which today, in this world, when we are divided by political opinion or affiliation, when we are divided by denomination, and sometimes simply we are divided by the opinion or what someone likes. And if we don't like that they like it, we decide that we don't even want to communicate. I know that discourse is necessary, and it does bring growth, but if we don't learn how to just treat everyone better, then we're never going to get to a place where everyone belongs. People of faith, when we can see people seeking refuge in this country, because their lives are in danger, and they don't have simple basic needs to be able to live and take care of their children and their elders, and we can so easily turn them away. We're doing it wrong, and that means that everyone is not belonging, especially when you are in a space where part of your leadership, and I'm talking about governmental systems, are not committed to or focused on being inclusive. They're not paying attention to the plaque that sits in Ellis Island talking about who they want to welcome. They are not welcoming the refugee, the immigrant. They are not respecting the original Americans or our Native and Indigenous persons who have taught us to love and nurture Mother Earth, who sustains us. And they're not looking at how easy it would be if we would take propaganda, the bureaucracy, out of simply living life and living with purpose. And so when we get there, then everyone will belong. But we have to figure out, how do we get to the place to where everyone understands, feels like, and has the assurance that they do. I think those are the goals that I strive for in my daily living. Those are the things that I try to exemplify. I am constantly living my life to make sure that all of my mentors and my ancestors and those that are still in this realm, like my godparents and my dad, are proud of the walk that I take on a daily basis, and know that I am so grateful and thankful to be able to have chances to keep getting it right, and to do what my big sister taught me, do good until you can do better. When you do better, then strive for your best. So good, better, best is always something that I have always used. And I think about belonging, and I have been I walk in a lot of privilege. I went to a school that was probably 99% African American. And my first principal was a Black woman. My first teacher, who was African American, was in first grade. And I had this metropolis of different hues and views and faith systems, but an understanding and expectation of excellence. So we were taught that we were beautiful, that we could do these things. And everyone, I hope, and I'm going to mention it because we just celebrated our 30-year high school reunion at Millwood High School. So I am a proud Mighty Falcon. And we talked about making sure that everyone was able to come back home and to be able to be with each other and appreciate the fact that how blessed are we? Because in our class, we know that a lot of the other classes of 1991, they've lost a lot of people. We've seen a lot of losses and are still experiencing a lot of grief right now with this pandemic, with the epidemic of violence and hate and racism and falling under white supremacy. So all of those things, when we look at it and you say how different my experience was, because I grew up in an environment that being expected to be excellent, being expected to treat your your peers with respect, and to respect your elders, and to learn. I just realized a couple of years ago that wasn't everyone's experience in academia and or just simple childhood. And then I went to a HBCU. So that was another mecca of Blackness and understanding how amazing these things were. And coming into my womanness and my personhood and being able to, I had parents in a community that allowed me to establish my own agency and autonomy. And when you are empowered in that way, then you want to fight for everyone to actually be able to have that same experience. And so if we get there, everyone will actually feel like they belong. And so I am hoping that we love differently, we love authentically, we listen more, we honor our elders and listen to their stories and glean from their wisdom, as well as listening to the least of us and our young people. I always tell our young people, I am so excited about the energy and the vigor that you bring to these days, but I always honor those that are considered elders, because while you have the energy, they have the map. And so if we combine those things, we'll know where we're going. We'll get there on a smoother journey, and we'll all get there together. And it will be intra-faith groups or intra-communities turning into an actual interfaith and international dominance of just humanity. And that's the coolest thing I can think of. And so I'm just kind of, I always tell everybody, be careful when you give a pastor the mic. And I felt like I said a whole bunch of things in a little bit of time, but I'm a third generation PK and a third generation pastor. And so I'm just trying to remember all of the nuggets that those before me have given me, and hope and welcome and invite everyone to join me in this journey. And I hope that if we ever interact, that I make you feel like you belong, because certainly you do. Because I think that that's important, and love is my foundational core.
Representing the Native American and Indigenous community, Harvey Pratt is a multi-talented multimedia artist. In addition to being a musician and a sculptor, Mr. Pratt is also a nationally recognized forensic artist, having spent more than 50 years in law enforcement, drawing thousands of detailed sketches and making soft tissue models to assist law enforcement. Dr. D. Bigfoot is a child psychologist, a presidential professor, and the director of the Indian Country Child Trauma Center.
Different in the scale, because that's probably tuned the old way, whereas this one is tuned to modern scale.
Yeah, sometimes they drill a hole. Some are drilled like this, and some are drilled like this. Mm-hmm. Indians used flutes for a lot of reasons, and most instruments that they used were for either for some kind of social dance or social gathering, and or they would use it in ceremonies. Mm-hmm. They would use certain like the rattle, different rattles that they would use ceremonially. This don't, maybe they won't dance with this one, but they'll use this to call in certain spirits to help them. So they'll use it different ways, and then those young men would play those flutes to capture the woman's heart. To make her like him, and they said, well, that certain love songs that we play would enchant him. And he'd stand by the creek, and the girl would come by, and she might ignore him for 30 days, and he'd just see if he was really sincere about it, and see if he wasn't going standing somewhere else for somebody else. And so finally, because every time he would open up his blanket, she'd snub him, and then finally she stepped in, and then they would talk. They'd talk about who they are. They already knew who they were, but they would discuss those kind of things. So he might play a flute outside of her teepee. You know, they all have different sounds, and depending on how you drum, you know, some guys will. Like this social dance would be where they can kind of catch them. And so like a two-step, they do a two-step, a man and a woman, and it'll be to that rhythm. But a war dance is faster, steady beat opposed to. And so that's why, you know, when you hear that, I know that whether they're singing a war dance song or they're singing a social song.
The dances, like at Red Earth or any of the powwows, you can hear that as part of the rhythm
Yes.
of the dance.
It's kind of like a little rabbit dance. So you see those little kids do a rabbit dance. They hop around. So just before they, you know, I'm not a singer and I'm not a drummer. You know, those guys that might know 100 songs. You know, and they have to stay in time, and you don't have to hit the same time.
Yeah.
You don't have to hit it at the same time. And then one guy might hit it real hard, bam, bam, you know. And then they'll pick it up. It'll pick up just before they get ready to quit.
The drummers where they're all around the drum and all beating together on the one big
Yep.
drum.
And maybe one will strike it really hard a couple of times, and then it'll pick up real quick and then just stop. So you have to stop right when that drum stops. You guys freeze right there. Rattles are used to dance. This gourd dance rattle. And so but some medicine men have special rattles that they'll use to perform ceremonies, you know. And so they use a special rattle, and like maybe this one here, you know. And then these shells are creek shells. So women wear these. Women wear these on their legs. Strap them on, and then they shuffle. And the men carry the big ones in the cans, milk cans, all laced together, and they'll dance it. They'll shake it with their hands like that. And the women will do these in, you know, maybe 2 or 3 of them dancing with these, and they're stomp dances. There's about 3 girls doing this, wearing these. You can really, and some of them might have 3 on it, you know, or might have a little bigger one. Some of them use old milk cans now, but they took this off of top of an old boot. But they did that a lot. They took a lot of cowboy boots and did stuff with them.
Yeah.
All of these things have changed, evolved. You know, they've all evolved, but some of the songs are still some of the old songs that they know and people record and make up. They're still being sung.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's some White Shield songs that they say they are 200 years old.
Yeah.
So that they had those songs and they just passed them down, you know, and shared them. So now you got Comanche singing Ponca songs and Ponca songs singing Cheyenne songs and that. You know, so they're that's a nice song. We'll just sing that too.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's not so much isolated. It's
Yeah. It sounds like more of the young people are not only getting interested, but learning to have more pride in what their heritage has been like. And that's what's really coming out.
Yeah, it is. It's they have a little more freedom. Their parents and their grandparents were really careful about saying things and doing things because it was taken away from them. They couldn't speak their language in the boarding schools, and they wouldn't let them have their ceremonies. You know, they tried to suppress all of that. They said, kill the Indian, save the man. That was kill his traditions, and a lot of those little kids that went to school, some of them that passed away, they never got back to their family. They just buried them somewhere on the grounds. And so there's a lot of secrecy among Indians. They don't want somebody to say, if you talk about it, they're going to take it away from you. See, so that's why I was raised.
There is an understanding that creation stories give us the way that we came to be. And there are many different kind of creation stories. Some of the creation stories are fairly short. Some of them can be long. Some creation stories are about animals, about human beings, about the world. And so our Native creation stories, specifically American Indian creation stories, can vary, and each tribe has its own creation stories. The one I'm most familiar with is the Cheyenne or the Tatista creation story. And this is a understanding that I came because of my children being Cheyenne or Tatista. The way the story is told is that there were 7 brothers, and through a series of things that happened, ended up being taken up into the stars and becoming a constellation. What we know from these creation stories is understanding that we are star material. And as we think about being star material and what that means, the beliefs about being shining bright even in the darkest of times, but more importantly, that brilliance of self, brilliance of being united in a constellation, the brilliance of having that connection. What is even a bigger understanding, or a broader understanding, is that science has now shown that human beings are made up of something like 97% star material. So what we look at from our Native teachings and the creation stories is that we are star material, that we are made from the stars, and that now science has confirmed, hasn't proven it, in the sense that it's some new awareness. What science has done is that science has affirmed the creation stories of many of the tribes that said that we are from the stars, and that we are capable and able and reflect the energy and the creation of our Creator. And as we think about the many constellations, the universe, that within our Native teachings, we came with a purpose, we're here for a purpose, and that we have purpose going forward. And so if we think of this in terms of every individual that comes to this earth as that gift, and that we have an appreciation for that gift, and that we enhance one another, then those conflicts are in contrast or against what we see as this gift to enhance, this gift uplift. And I think that especially within our Native culture, that appreciation, that gratitude, that grace allows for a sense of forgiveness. It doesn't mean that it makes everything all right. It just means there might not be a harsh retaliation, but there still needs to be an accountability, because anyone that receives a gift is accountable for that gift. And so I think that what we need in terms of being able to recognize the injustices of the past, the oppression, the prejudice, the disparities that resulted, that it would be helpful to understand the truths, understand the harm that has been done, and to recognize through gratitude that we are here as reflection of our Creator, and that there is still an accountability that needs to be there, especially, the United States, land in terms of Oklahoma. I think the other part of that is that in terms of Native understanding, and this is, chapter and verse according to D. Bigfoot, that for the most part, it's not about, land isn't about ownership. Land is about being able to take and give back to the land, to be able to, again, that gift. And so the understanding of ownership and possession is much different, I think, for Native people than it is for people in, because they talk about jurisdiction, talk about laws, about property. And so the perception that Native people come into being able to occupy a land and take the gifts from that land versus being able to own a land and exploit the land. So, oil, coal, water, depleting the resources of the land. Whereas I think that, what we see historically is that there was this great turtle island, and Native people were very self-sufficient in this great turtle island. They harvested, but they also gave back. And so the richness of this great turtle island continued to offer those gifts. And now with the pollution, with the, land being unproductive, that it's not being held up as a gift any longer. And so exploiting a gift, I think, has dire consequences. And so it's back to that truth and reconciliation. It's not just with people, but with those things around us. So it's not just with individuals, it's with the land, it's with water, it's with the space that we occupied. How do we allow people to be homeless when there's so many empty buildings and shelters that could be made into homes? How do we restrict water and the pollution of water? So I think that the understanding that we have an accountability as part of this being star people, that this is a gift that was given to us. How are we rightfully accountable how do we step into that sacredness in order to uplift one another as human beings, as creators, at the hand of the Creator, but also all that the Creator gave us in terms of the land, water. How do we uplift? How do we step into that sacredness? And I think as we think about how do we step into that sacredness, is that accountability and that grace in order to have an understanding and a willingness to uplift each other. And I think this is where hopefully the prejudice and racism, oppression, disparities can be dissolved.
The Interfaith Alliance of Oklahoma's 2021 winner for the Community Service Award is Sarah Cunningham and Free Mom Hugs, an organization devoted to LGBTQIA+ inclusion and support, headquartered right here in Oklahoma City.
When I think about the theme, everyone belongs, that really resonates with me because a couple of things. I remember growing up and playing with the neighborhood kids all day, and you had to be home at 10 o'clock. And before everybody went into their house, I would say, okay, we're gonna see you tomorrow. We're gonna meet right here and we're gonna have fun all day. And that stayed with me even through my adolescence and my adulthood. I always wanted everyone to be included, whether I found a great restaurant or, finding my faith for the first time. I always wanted to share that. And I think that we all have that sense in us, that we want everyone to belong, we want everyone to be included, even ourselves. So early in my advocacy with Free Mom Hugs and meeting this beautiful community, the thing that I heard most in the very beginning was that they missed their sense of belonging as they were separated from their homes, from their church family, and from many parts of society. And so to be able to point to a community and have that connection, I think it's just the essence of humanity. And that this very organization of the Interfaith Alliance of Oklahoma, protecting faith and freedom, it's worth protecting. And part of having faith is having faith in yourself, having faith in each other, and having faith in something greater than we are, and being able to connect. So all of that to say, what an honor it is to be given this award as a community service representative of Oklahoma. And that means so much to me, not only that I do believe in community and I do believe in service, and I do believe that there's no greater joy than when we can serve others, but that you, the organization, and me, we're here in Oklahoma. We're smack dab in the middle of America, and we're working together to make the world a better place for everyone. So this award is really special because it's in my hometown from people that I respect and admire so much. And it validates the spirit in me that sees the spirit in you. So thank you for this award. I accept it wholeheartedly and very thankfully. Here's a hug.
The Interfaith Alliance of Oklahoma's 2021 award winner for the Humanitarian Award is Reverend T. Cherie Dickerson, founder of Black Lives Matter Oklahoma, a founding member of the Women's March in Oklahoma, and an advisory board member for the National Organization of Women in Oklahoma.
I would simply like to offer my sincerest gratitude, my sincerest extension of participation and commitment to continue to deserve recognition of being a humanitarian. Humility is something that I have always been taught and do believe that we have to continue to exercise on a daily basis. And when we literally allow ourselves to be dispersed amongst our communities, our circles, this country, and even internationally, to be able to be a person of service, there is no greater privilege that I can think of. And I absolutely love the work that I do. And so to the Interfaith Alliance of Oklahoma and all of those who literally shocked me and totally blessed me with this award and acknowledgement of saying that we see you. I want to say thank you. As a non-binary queer person who sometimes wonders if her work is making the difference and if she is making all of those that she holds in such high regard, making them proud. This just kind of gave me an indication that maybe I'm doing a pretty good job in these days, as my grandmother always says. So thank you. I love you all. And let us continue to do a good work and be a people of service. Ashe.
एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूर्त अजूनी स्वयं गुरु प्रसाद। लोका परम न भूलो पाई, लोका परम न भूलो पाई, लोका परम न भूलो पाई। खालिक खलक खलक में खालिक, खालिक खलक खलक में खालिक। दूर रहो श्रवणा माटी एक अनेक बात सब में सच्चा एको सोई, सब में सच्चा एको सोई, इसका किया सब किछ होई। सब में सच्चा एको सोई, जिसका किया सब किछ होई। हुक्म पहचानी सोए को जानी, हुक्म पहचानी सोए को जानी, बंदा कहिए सोई, बंदा कहिए सोई। लोका परम न भूलो भाई, लोका परम न भूलो भाई। खालिक खलक खलक में खालिक खलक खलक में उर लहो सबटाई। लोका परम न भूलो भाई। सब में सच्चा एको सोई, सब में सच्चा एको सोई, तिसका किया सब किछ होई, तिसका किया सब किछ होई। हुक्म पहचानी सोए को जानी, हुक्म पहचानी सोए को जानी, बंदा कहिए सोई, बंदा कहिए सोई। लोका परम न भूलो भाई, लोका परम न भूलो भाई। खालिक खलक खलक मैं खालिक, उर लहो श्रवढ़ाई। लोका परम न भूलो भाई। अल्लो अलख न जाए लकिया, अल्लो अलख न जाए लकिया। गुर गुण दीना मीठा, गुर गुण दीना मीठा। कह कबीर मेरी शंका नासी, कह कबीर मेरी शंका नासी। सर्ब निरंजन दीठा, सर्ब निरंजन दीठा। लोका परम न भूलो भाई, लोका परम न भूलो भाई। खालिक खलक खलक में उर लहो श्रवढ़ाई। लोका परम न भूलो भाई, लोका परम न, लोका परम न, लोका परम न भूलो भाई। Let there be no doubt, all humans are created equal. There is oneness in the Creator and the creation. Ego-driven minds create separations between humans. One divine resides in all of us. A true devotee understands the cosmic order and sees one divine in all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I hope you've enjoyed both what you've been able to see and hear and learn about communities that are around you every day. Special thanks go out to the members of the community who have been our guests tonight. We also send another congratulations to Sarah Cunningham and Free Mom Hugs, as well as the Reverend Cherie Dickerson, both of whom have enriched our communities, supported marginalized peoples, and worked together for us to have a better today and tomorrow for all here in Oklahoma. We also would like to say a special thanks to Green Pasture Studios for their willingness to let us use their space to save cost and bring this to you in a way that benefits you and all of us while keeping us COVID safe. We look forward to seeing you in 2022. We are very excited to expand the opportunities that we have, both for speaking engagements and events that bring us together in celebration, but also moments that we can get together physically in person like we just did last weekend to get our hands dirty and work in the community for good as we get to know each other across our different beliefs. Lastly, we hope sincerely that you can support our mission. Attend our events, join with us as we do interfaith service activities in the community, and support us financially, because your money goes to help us provide media, messaging that we hope to be around the state in the next few years, and also allows us to engage in new ways in our community, like the podcast that we have slated for 2022. Thank you again for giving us this time tonight, and remember that this will be up on our website and on Facebook for several months, so we hope that you will come back and watch our evening event again and share it with people that you know. Thank you. From the Interfaith Alliance, I'm Dr. Noel Jacobs, President.